Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're going to be checking out the brand new release from Team Associated. Yes, the RC10 4WD drive. You know, the one that was never going to happen. Yeah, anyway, we'll gloss over that. In this episode, the plan is we're going to build it all up, see what it's all about, and then I'm going to decide whether I'm going to take it racing or not. But I think the best thing to do is build it up first and just see how it is. I'll build it up as if I'm going to take it racing and then we'll see. Right, let's lay everything out. Woo-hoo! Okay, so I've laid everything out. Didn't take very long at all. Why? Well, Team Associated, you do it bag by bag. So you open the first bag, you lay out all the parts, then you do that process. And then once that's finished, you move on to bag B. And then we've got bag B, C, D, E, F, so on and so on. Well, apart from bag F, because you need to get bag F, which is the turnbuckles, before you get to bag F, if that makes any sense. No. I put the tyres on the rims. I always seem to do that first. No idea why. I don't know. I just seem to like doing it. But there we go. That's me and how I build them. Right, we kick off with the gorgeous chassis. And I know what you're thinking already. You've already done step one. Yeah, I know. I'd already started this and I'd forgot to do this bit to camera. So I thought I'd better stop before going too far. Now I'm hearing a few things about this chassis from people that have built it, saying it's a little bit finicky, being that you've got Imperial and metric kind of mixed in a little bit. But yeah, not sure why AE hasn't just moved over now and they keep holding on to their freedom measurements.
Our proud nation will measure weights in pounds, and that 2,000 pounds shall be called a ton.
And what will 1,000 pounds be called, sir?
Nothing.
But hey, it is what it is, and we'll just work through it. The other one that seems to be cropping up a lot is the rear shocks being too long, making the actual dog bones, the drive shafts, drop out when you kind of get off the ground. So that's something we'll have to look at about shortening them when we build them up. Anyway, right, let's crack on and we move on to fitting the steering. So the first challenge that I came up against is trying to get the bearings in the steering. These were very tight indeed. I tried pushing down on them and then eventually I got frustrated and started whacking them. Shouldn't whack bearings at all. It's a really bad way to go. The best way to do it if you're trying to get bearings in is like I did here. I put a little bit of lubricant around the bearing, lined it up as flat as possible, put a flat face on it and then whack it from the back. That way you're spreading the load across the whole bearing and not just the center, which is obviously going to damage the bearing because of the balls in the middle. Another couple of challenges came up straight away, and the first one is the ball studs. They're two different lengths. You get 8mm and 6mm. That became a bit of an issue, but I'll talk about that in a second. The other one is you have to fit these two little washers that you see on screen now, but you've got to line them up. And then when you put the center section in, you're trying to get it through the bearing and through that plastic. So the best thing I could come up with is to flip it over, fit it onto that, and it does hold it in place that you can now, if you're gentle, put it back on and then screw it down without that plastic washer falling off. That was the first challenge. The second one is, as I mentioned before, the ball studs, the 8mm and the 6mm. However, I messed around and moved the bearings around, they all gave me the same problem, that they scratched across the bottom of the chassis. So as you can see here, there's two purple shims that I've put in just to raise those ball studs up. Not sure why, but I couldn't get any of them to work properly. And obviously you don't want those ball studs scratching along the bottom of the chassis, as it causes friction in the steering, as well as carve nice lines into your gorgeous chassis. Now obviously another way that you could fix it if you have the same problem is just to grind down the bottom of the ball stud a little bit. Then that way you wouldn't have to add the shims. But for me, I was happy just to put the shims in. I know it's going to raise up the turnbuckles just a fraction, but I don't think on this kit it's really going to be a problem. Anyway, where are we? Oh yes, building up the ball diffs. So obviously we've got to build up the diff threaded bolt as well as the bearings that go on the end. Don't forget to grease these up and make sure they're in the right orientation, as you want the grooves facing in towards the bearings. After that, we can actually start adding the balls. Now, the way that I do it is slightly different to the manual. I actually fit the bearing, then place it over the actual outdrive. Then I add the balls. The reason I do it this way is you've got to push the balls into the ball diff, but if you push too hard, they can ping out the other side. So by doing it this way, when you push down on them a little bit, they'll actually seat. And as you can see here, I've got some of them that are seated and some of them that weren't, just to show you. But when you do up the diff nut, it should all clamp it together, and hopefully you haven't lost any balls. Now, when you put the cover over the bolt that you see here, make sure you note the orientation, as when you put them into the car, you'll need to know which side. And that can be a little bit tricky, so if you've got a little pen, just mark it up before you put it into the diff to make sure you've got it in the right orientation. Now I'm going to build up the front diff as per the manual, and I just wanted to do this to show you how much left to right slop is in the ball diff with the housing. Team Associated have addressed this by supplying additional shims that are not listed in the manual, and then you shim them up. This works brilliantly. The only thing that's a bit of a pain is they didn't supply any for the rear diff, so you still have some left and right slop in the rear, even though you can really dial the front in well. So it's well worth picking up an extra set so that you can do the rear diff as well. Next, we need to fit the front belt tensioner. Very simple, just a couple of bearings with a bolt going all the way through it. The way that it works is it's a cam, it's off center, and there's some friction grooves cut into it, so you loosen it up, and as you rotate it sort of from the 12 o'clock position around, it will actually cam in one direction, allowing you to tension the belt. Now the front sprocket has a plastic side guide for the belt. Now going through that is a grub screw that holds it all together. That's a little bit of a challenge as it all rotates. So lining it up and marking it with a pen really helps you line everything up when you're putting in the grub screw.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing pleasure. Would you like to win the chance to win one of these, an RC10 4-wheel drive new in box for less than the price of a coffee? Well, now's your chance, because I'm raffling off one of these. Comes with free worldwide shipping to your door. So what are you waiting for? Actually, watch the video and then go to the link in the description, or just Google raffles RCKicks. Anyway, back to the build.
So that's the front diff all done. Now we can turn our attentions to the rear diff. Now this is the classic, iconic Team Associated RC10 stealth transmission, and nothing really has changed apart from we have the extra shaft that attaches to the belt. Now it kind of goes without saying, but everything should go together smoothly. You should have no friction whatsoever. So if you're rotating any of the diffs and you get notching or any kind of rubbing, something's not quite right. So before you go steamrolling ahead, best to go back in and check that you haven't got any issues. Now we've attached the rear diff to the motor mount plate, we turn our attentions to setting up the slipper. Now the slipper pads never sit that flat, so if you are mindful, you might want to put them under something flat and heavy before you do this. Alternatively, the way I did it was just clamp them, turn it upside down, and then slide it up and use gravity in your favor. It goes together pretty easy, it's not that difficult, but you've got to make sure the pads are sitting correctly and they're not pinched at all. We can now tick off both diffs. Now we turn our attentions to fitting the front diff into the car, but before we do that, we've got to put the upright on. Now there's nothing super complicated about this one, or actually special. It's just got a cutout that accepts the front diff. It's actually surprising how well it all goes together, and even though it's quite tight at the front, I think they did a good job of getting it all to work together. When I'm building AE kits like this, I tend to stay away from electrical screwdrivers, as they can be a little bit too powerful, even on quite a soft setting, as that white plastic
very easy to over tighten them and then round them off. So stick to a screwdriver. I'm happy to report that Team Associated actually did put quite a few bells and whistles in this kit, so you don't get dog bones in the rear, for instance. All the turnbuckles are more modern versions, and the front hubs are from a much more modern buggy. So that kind of leads me down the line of, is this going to be okay to be used for vintage racing? As far as I know, in the UK, it's going to be tolerated. But if you know more, comment below, let me know. Okay, so I'm about to make another mistake, so I thought I'd point it out to you. As you can see, I'm attaching the balls there, and they're in the wrong hole. They should be on the outside hole, not the inside one. If you look in the top right hand corner, you'll notice the white hole and the black dot. The black dot is the one where it's supposed to go. I didn't realise for quite a while until I'd actually put the whole back end of the car on, and I noticed that the turnbuckles on the rear were really long. So I had to go back and look at it. So don't make the same mistake I did. It's an easy one to fix, but thought I'd point it out for you. Now I'm putting these turnbuckles on early, and the reason for that is the manual doesn't say put them in for ages, and the whole front flaps around with all the drive shafts hanging out, so it's definitely worth doing the turnbuckles as soon as you finish before doing them as per the manual, as it just makes life easier. Also, I found attaching the belt to the rear diff was much easier if you actually threaded it through and then fitted the diff like you just saw, versus the way they do it in the manual of passing it through and then try to attach it. Whereas if you rolled it through, slide in the diff, connect it up and then seat it and bolt it in, it makes life so much easier. Also, these two bolts at the rear here don't line up that well, so take your time. You might have to kind of bend it slightly to line them up. Once you get one in, you're golden. Now I seem to have mislaid a bolt for this top mount bracket in carbon. Fancy. So I thought I would change them all to titanium. You can also, as you see them, so they're quite nice. So I thought, hey, that was the excuse. I had them in my parts bin, so I fitted them in. And really, to make life easier down the line, I need to remove all the freedom measurement bolts and swap them out for metric. So there's a lot of talk going around about the rear shocks on this car and the pistons being too long, causing the rear drive shafts to pop out. And after having a look and playing around, yes, they are very close to falling out when the rear shocks are at full length and full droop. So Team Associated put out a couple of videos showing you a few things you can do to address that. And you're looking at the shock shaft should be no more than 21.5 millimeters. So what you can do is make sure you add in all the spacers as per the manual. I personally added in a few more as I wanted to be even shorter than this. Now, being that I'm kind of going to be running it around on the garden, I don't need massive travel. So I set mine to 20 millimeters by adding an additional spacer in the rear, as I didn't want any chance of the rear drive shafts popping out. Don't you just love it when the wheels go on? It actually starts to become a buggy slash car and you feel like you're finally getting to the finish line. Gorgeous, just look at it. Now, what can I say about the build? It's nothing to write home about. There's no massive challenges. The front bars that you see here, I did have a little bit of an issue trying to get those rear bolts in, so I had to flex the chassis a little bit and then have Rebecca put the actual bolt in for me. But once it was started, it was fine. Apart from that, everything else goes together pretty much exactly as you'd expect if you'd built an RC10. So don't expect modern kind of levels, but overall, nothing is a total nightmare. Yes, those rear shocks are a little bit out, and obviously you'd want to adjust them if you were going to take it racing, but that's nothing that you can't dial out yourself by adding a few more internal shims. Right, now the chassis is finished, we need to turn our attentions to the body, and I'm not going box art with this one. I'm actually going to do something a little bit different, as I ordered a set of decals from MTI Racing and I actually adjusted the colours from the stock ones. So this car is going to be totally black, white and a little bit of silver. But the decals are going to match what you would expect to see on the car from the original. I also backed the car in silver and then white, as I like to have the black inside, but you've got to be a little bit careful obviously if you're painting it white. So I did the white, then I did silver, and then I did the black afterwards. But you've got to make sure there's no patches, otherwise the black will shine through the white. So a few of the decals, I wanted to use the water technique just to make sure I got everything bang on. Now, if you don't know that, you just put a bit of water where you're going to put your decal, put the decal in the water and then put it onto the actual car. Once you've got it all lined up, because you can move it around, then you dry it off and it will actually seal it and put it in the position that you want. This is great if you're really looking to get everything lined up perfectly. So there you go, I'm really chuffed with it. I think the actual colour scheme that I went for really works, and yeah, I really like it. The problem is, I like it so much I want to make it a shelf queen. And I've got enough shelf queens, but I really like the body. But there is some things that I now decide that I want to change. And those things are, I would like to get the RC10cc chassis, the silver one, and swap it over for silver, as well as change these tops on the shocks to the black plastic ones that you can see on other cars, just to get rid of the gold, as I like the black and white look. The problem is that's quite a bit of work, but I did find out you can actually use a chassis from an RC10. What they've done is they've just added 2 screw holes at the front, which you could actually drill out and tap yourself, and then it would work. So I've just set myself up for a load more work. So the plan is, in the next video in the installments of this, I will fit all the electronics and I'll swap over the chassis and see if I can get rid of these gold tops as well, and then it will all be black and white. Really like it. I get the feeling this one is definitely one for grass racing and for out in the garden. I don't think this is going to work very well on carpet tracks, indoor carpet tracks, as you're definitely going to have to change the suspension. It's way too high and you need to get it much lower. So that definitely would be a way to go, but we'll see. I want to run it in the garden first because I want to see what it's like. So that's what's going to happen in the next installment of this video. So thanks very much. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.